And we're live. Oh, yes, we're live. Hi, everybody. I hope whoever caught all that, I guess you caught it. I'm James Hunt Jr. Welcome to the Andor Aftershow, your number one show on JLJ Media. And your big hit out there in the world. We appreciate it so much. I'm here with, of course, my two Andorians. Do you like that? John Duffy and Frank Moran.
Hello.
We made it.
We made it. I'm glad.
Looks like we made it.
James, I know you like to send out those tweets promoting the show, and yet I felt like the great pull quote from our previous episode, that we were the best, and Andor after show didn't make it on there.
I thought about screenshotting it and doing it. I thought, is that too much self-aggrandizement if we just put it out there that they think that we're the best? I mean, is that too much? Is that not enough? I wasn't sure. I mean, I'm a very modest person. I'll try to think about that for a second.
I mean, James, if you don't toot your own horn, who's going to?
Frank, that's all I've been doing for the last 3 years, is tooting my own horn. So everybody, we're here to talk about Andor, the overview of the season. If you haven't caught any of our episodes, we have all the episodes are out, audio and video. So you can check those out. We talk about we break down every episode. The first episode we did was the first 3 collective, and then the rest go on from there. But they're all clearly labeled for you, so you can watch them there. But we usually do, after every Star Wars series, we do like an overview of the show, what we kind of thought over, because you get a chance to rewatch it again, which I know some of you guys did. Some of you guys told me you watched it again. Just other things like that. So it's just kind of a fun thing to do because we loved this show. Where should we start? It's the show's over. We have till March before we get another Star Wars series on a Wednesday. Are we missing? Do we wish it was like 15 episodes, 16 episodes of Andor, John?
I do miss it. Like it felt good to wrap it up, and but I do miss it. I do miss having something every week, to look forward to. Because it got to the point where I couldn't even wait until I got home from work on Wednesday. I was watching them on my lunch break. I think the finale came out. I was watching it at my desk, like in the morning. Like it was just like I could not get enough of this series. It was just it was so much. I always thought it was going to be good, and I was always excited for it. But it was honestly even better than I could have imagined. It was different than I could have imagined. I just really loved it, and it makes me excited for the future of this series, but also potentially the future of other Star Wars projects and series that Disney Plus comes out with.
What are some of the things that you've read, Frank, since the show's gone off the air? What do you think? What do you feel like the consensus has been that you've read?
Well, for me, I mean, it's like I feel like our opinions are the be all end all. So I didn't bother slumming it with other people's thoughts.
I love it. That makes sense. Thank everybody. Have a great week. That's fun. That's funny.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's thoughts could be as insightful as ours. So what's the point?
True.
It's I definitely feel like the overall tone of things that I had read online was certainly that the more people being won over by this, especially as the series went on. I think people that had some pace issues for the first 3 episodes, feeling it was a little slow, by the end was they were won over by it. And I mean, if you weren't already in it at the beginning, there are people that were in on it from the beginning, but there are others that were like, I don't know. But it seems overall, those people that stuck it out, it paid off for them. I think the only thing that was kind of nagging some people was just that Cassian Andor was kind of described as like a donut show, where it's the center is just a little empty, especially if it's about him. But to go to John's point from last week, it's the name is Andor, not Cassian Andor. So I mean that it definitely, if you take it away from just being him as the main focal character, it's still a great show.
Well, you brought up a point, Frank, that I want to talk about actually a little bit, because I don't feel like the first 2 episodes were slow. I don't think, to me, they were not slow. They were just 3 episodes that just didn't feature a lot of heavy, like lightsabers and shit, everything we're used to. I don't feel like I feel like they were setting it up. I mean, I feel like it was weird having 3 at once. I think that was a little much, maybe. When I look back on it. But I was hooked, and we talked. You go back to the first episode. I think all 3 of us were hooked in the first episode or so. But looking back on it, you bring that up. Do you think those were slow, or I mean, what do you guys? When you look back on it, what do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I would think only because this series is paced a little differently than other Star Wars series, and so maybe Disney's thought of releasing all 3 at once was to try to mitigate that. Where it's not like, I don't know if they were fearful of the product. I don't think they were, but in the sense where it's like, oh wait, this is it's happening at a different type of pace than what Star Wars audiences may expect from a Star Wars TV show. So perhaps we need to give them more of it up front to let them know, like, oh yeah, I don't know, there's stuff happening here. Stick with it. But it's like one of those things in retrospect. If Disney knew how everybody would feel, the majority of viewers would have felt by the end of it, I think they would have, felt more confident in just releasing one at a time.
Yeah. It felt like before John, before you go, it felt like, because again, for me, it was the first series that really like something totally new. I mean, even though it was connected to Rogue One, it wasn't like some of the others where you're like, I'm waiting for this character. John, what were your thoughts on
that? I like that they released 3 episodes at once, but I was bought in from the very first episode. I do wonder if I would have felt any different if I had watched that first episode and then had to wait a week and like maybe stewed over that first episode more and watched it again. Like I don't know, maybe I would have had a different feeling, but I personally was bought in from the beginning. I thought there was enough of a story there. We were introduced at that point. We were already introduced to so many characters in that first episode because while we started off in that, brothel with him looking for his sister, which that was really only ever brought up like one more time with Marva saying, stop looking for your sister. But even aside from that, we were still introduced in that very first episode to characters like Marva and Brasso. Right when he gets back to Ferrix, he goes to Brasso and says, I need you to cover for me. We met Marva, we met Bix. I think we saw, Salman and Willman, the guys in that shop there with that own the shop that Bix would go in to use that phone. Like we were already getting introduced to so many of these characters that I felt like it was enough for me. But I'm glad that they released all 3 episodes. And I thought it was appropriate because it really kind of tied up that part of the story really, really well, I think. Where like by the end of episode 3, now we've met, Luthen, and we've really got ourselves, Andor's now leaving Ferrix again to go on this other adventure. We're not really sure what he's going to get into. It ends up being the heist on Aldhani and everything. But like, I thought that 1 through 3 episode story arc was great. And I'm really happy that they released it all at once. Personally, I
don't know, because I remember reading like the reviews before I even watched the first episodes, where like, the pace, I don't know about this. And when I sat down to watch them all, I did not have that same impression. Like James was talking about, I was just like, I'm in. I was just enjoying storytelling. So
I agree.
I would be interesting though to what you were saying, John, if it had just been that first episode, how I would have felt. But knowing that I had 3 episodes in front of me to watch, if that changes my opinion as well.
Right. Because that first episode ended and I was like, oh, I cannot wait for the second episode. And so I felt like I was already bought in, but like would I have felt like, oh, I wish I had gotten more if I had to wait a week now after that first one? I don't know. I might have been totally satisfied still, but getting that 3 episode story all at once was very satisfying. So
it's funny because you're right, because once I finished it, I could watch another episode. Like it was literally, I knew it was week 3, so I spaced out the time to watch it. So you're right. It's kind of like I was conditioned to week 3 episodes. So then I like the first one when I can see the second one. Then I like the second one, so I can see the third one. So I guess it's right. So I wonder what it felt like we had to wait, just like everybody else. Just kind of one by one. But again, go ahead.
Yeah, I've never really gotten into the binging model of programming. Really? I'm totally good with it just being a weekly release, or if you're going to double up a few episodes, that's fine. But at the beginning of a season, but for me, I enjoy having like just the week to week thing. I feel like a little bit more time to digest it or make time to watch it, depending on what your busy schedule is. You have the chance to kind of just get some kind of peruse other people's thoughts and ideas about the shows as well. It kind of gets you more invested, at least for me.
Well, no, I'm somewhere in the middle. I mean, I guess because there's some network shows I watch. Obviously, they're week to week. You can binge them, and obviously, you watch the soaps. They're just every day. We can't watch them all at once. But I have found that now I'm catching series, and I'm really enjoying the binge factor. Right? I just go, okay, I can do all 8 episodes at once. Right? I do all 9 episodes at once, but I'm actually kind of pissed. I'm pissed at myself because I'm watching Yellowstone right now, and it's 5 seasons. They just started the 5th season. I'm still so far behind, so I can't. I'm like, why would I watch it? Why was I watching when it came out? Like now I have to try to binge it, and that kind of bugs. But when the new series comes out, 1923, the spinoff, or whatever, I'm gonna watch that. Right, that's Harrison Ford, you guys, Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren. And it looks good. It looks good. The trailer looks so good. And I'm gonna watch that when it comes out. And however, that's once a week, so I'm gonna watch that as it comes out. I'm not gonna binge that one.
A quick, a minute digression into Yellowstone. I have not watched any of it yet. But are you sucked in? I mean, I know you love a good.
Oh, it's like Dallas. It's totally Dallas, but set in Montana. And Kevin Costner is a solid actor. If you think about it, he's always pretty, he's pretty decent in movies. But it's the first episode I didn't realize was an hour. Next. It's like that's it. I'm watching Yellowstone right now.
He wants to watch it immediately.
He wants to watch it now, but not when our show's on. Not when our show.
I know, right? I actually haven't seen it before either. Yellowstone, by the way.
I'll wait till he comes back before I do that. So I'll look at the chat. We have Derpy. Oh, there he's back. I'm like, let's go watch it right now. I'm watching Yellowstone.
He's leaving.
We're laughing.
Sorry, guys. It sounded so good.
It's not so good. You're like, bye. Watch it. Okay, it's not. I can continue. Okay, so the first episode's almost 2 hours long. I didn't realize that's like an hour and 50 minutes or whatever. And a lot happens in that first episode, and it's really set up. And Montana, you think Montana, but it actually works. Because it actually is, it's literally a cowboys and Indian story. It's literally what it is, with a Dallas type characters. And Beth, I was gonna say, if you guys watch the show, Beth is like crazy, cuckoo crazy the bomb. We love her. And she's like the only chick kind of amongst all these dudes. And there's so many wheelings and dealings going on. And it's really, 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 and the first episode had a shocker at the end. You're like, what? And he was like, they did that, which they did something they normally don't do in series, but it's that early. So I was impressed by that. Actually, I was like, oh, they did it. Okay. And every subsequent episode is just it's good as the last one. And like but you really I got sucked in. So sorry you guys, but I love Yellowstone. I'm sucked in.
All right, Kevin Costner, man, bringing
the
heat.
And they did a spinoff called 1883. Which is a 1-season spinoff. That's what's supposed to be. I haven't watched that yet. I got to watch that next. But this new one, 1923, is the other. They have like 5 other spinoffs all planned. So it's gonna be, I'm all in.
I haven't seen any of it. My brother's really into it. I've been meaning to check it out. And is that show that started recently, Tulsa King, also from the creators of Yellowstone, right? That's another one, totally separate. But I'm interested in that also. But
that's on my list. That's you know who that is? That's Sly.
Sly, yeah.
Sly. I'm like, and I like Mr. Stallone. I've always liked it. I don't care. Right. I was a Rocky fan from the very beginning. I like Rambo. I don't care. I like Rambo. I love all that stuff.
It's Sly and the Family Stallone, right?
Stallone, that's right. Yes.
Yes.
I love, and still cliffhangers are my favorite movies of his. Anyway, okay. Andor is on the chat, Derpy 500, I can't even read. 501st. Andor was better than Mando. Yeah, I said it. It's not.
I'm not going to disagree with that statement. I think it's just as with the dialogue, the cinematography, just the overall arc of the season. Boy, I find myself probably feeling more rewarded as a viewer watching Andor. Not that I didn't, and that's not to say that I didn't enjoy Mandalorian. I mean, that was a nice kind of revival of the Star Wars and television form, and there's a lot of stuff in there that if you like Star Wars in general, there's a lot of stuff to enjoy.
Yes.
But boy, I just felt like Andor was just I would agree, a more satisfying experience.
Well, first, so I asked another question, but before you did, yes, I'm curious to see how season 3 is going to be, because now we're in that territory. It's the 3rd season. The trailer looked good, but we still don't know what's really going on. So I'm just curious, can they make this is where it gets a little murky? Hero season 3 wasn't good. Lost season 3 wasn't good. Like season 3 gets a little weird. You pass the sophomore slump, and it's kind of like, can you feel it? No, okay. I'm just curious if it's going to be as good.
Well, true, especially when you take away the whole thing about Grogu and the pursuit of him, and if that's not no longer really an element to the season, what's the kind of relationship dynamic? What's that going to be like? It'd be interesting.
Go ahead, John, please.
No, I'm just curious how they're going to handle that, because, I mean, I'm sure most people, I don't know, most people you would think, right, that watched The Mandalorian probably watched Book of Boba Fett, but if you didn't, and you pick up in season 3, if the last thing you saw was the end of season 2, right, and now you pick up in season 3 and they're already back together and Mando's got a new ship, it's like, wait a minute, what did I miss here?
I'm very curious to see if that happens, because remember on our show we kept saying, and so we'll find out. We're going to totally find. I'm really curious to see if anybody complains about that.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure there'll probably be a nice previously on that'll show all that footage. But if you were, I'll ask the two of you, if you had not watched Book of Boba Fett, not enjoy the experience that was the Book of Boba Fett, and you just went into season 3, started watching the previously on, and they show you these clips from Book of Boba Fett, would you stop and immediately go watch those episodes? Or would you like, well, I'll just take what I saw in the previously on and just dive in?
No, I would go back to, if I become a freak, a Star Wars freak, I would have to go back and watch the episode of Boba Fett.
I would have to go. I think I'd have to go back and watch the whole season of Book of Boba Fett. Like if I hadn't seen any of Boba Fett, like if I'd watched the first couple episodes and wasn't into it, I'd be like, I have to now go back and watch this whole season and see how we got here. Which means, because that was, I think that most of that stuff happened. That was like the second to last episode, right, of Book of Boba Fett when all that stuff happened in Mando. Yeah. Like, I don't know. I would feel weird picking up at the end of a season to catch up on the beginning of this new season. Like, I don't know. It's all jumbled up together. I'm very curious to see how they'll handle it.
Well, go ahead, Frank.
No, I would think if I'm looking at the Venn diagram of Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett fans, I would imagine if you're a Mandalorian fan, I would be hard pressed that you would have missed out on Book of Boba Fett. You may not have watched the whole way through because you would have maybe started like, ugh, this isn't for me, and bailed. So I feel like there's either the people that didn't watch it at all, watched it a little bit but decided not to finish it, or watched all of it. And I feel like if you looked at those 3 groups, I would think that watched all of it would probably be the biggest of those groups.
Right. Yeah. I agree. And I don't remember, it feels so long ago now, but I would imagine there was probably quite a firestorm on social media when Mando and Grogu showed up as much as they did in Boba Fett. So anybody that was super into Mando that is excited for season 3, I'm sure if they weren't watching Boba Fett, found out through social media that like, hey, this is important for Mando and Grogu, you should probably check this out. So that's probably something too that I'm thinking about now.
But that's all. Remember, there are also folks who aren't on social media. Who just watch shows. I have friends who aren't on social media. They really aren't. Or if they're on one, they're on one platform. They're not on Twitter, or they're just on Instagram, or they're just on Facebook. And who knows who they're following? They may or not know. I was just remind myself. They'll remind me and go, well, I don't read. I don't go to the message boards. I don't read this. I don't do any of that stuff.
Well, those are the important people, James.
Frank said it, people, not me. He said it. I didn't do anything.
That's right. If you're not fully invested in social media, get out.
And I'm trying to defend you people out there who don't want to do it. I'm like, Frank said it, not me. I didn't do that. I didn't do that. Derpy 501, hi Kirsten Marie. Derpy says, and also Andor did not need toy merchandise like Mando to carry it to get a season 2. Just saying. I don't know if it's that either. They gave Andor a go of season 2 for whatever reason. We still don't even know why they even gave it to her, because the show, unless they felt the show was that good themselves, I guess. But Mando, I mean, people wanted they wanted the Grogu toy. They wanted it. Yeah. If there was no demand for it, it wouldn't have happened. They wanted it.
I would have loved to see what it would have been like for like Kathleen Kennedy reading the first scripts from Andor and just seeing what the reaction was. Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau, I'm sure having their connection with Star Wars, they would have read those scripts too. Just seeing what they were like, just see the dialogue, just what's been going through their heads.
Yeah. There's one toy that I won from Andor, and it's some kind of B2 emo toy. I would love even just like a little B2 emo like paperweight or something that you could just put on the desk. You press a little button and he shoots up and down. You know what I mean? Oh, I would love that.
That's cute. I mean, very cute. Yes. I know. I do know. We can talk about this as far as I do know that with Mandalorian, there was. I mean, clearly, I have a Grogu mug I'm drinking out of right now. There was a lot of merchandise that came out of it. Grogu became really big. And that's not really Mandalorian's fault. I mean, it became big. I mean, it just became this huge thing, and fans really wanted it. I just think that's just one. I mean, that's just you have to go. You have to go with what the fans want, obviously. And obviously, it's ABC. It's Disney, Lucasfilms. They've always had merchandise. I mean, when I was a kid, we had Star Wars merchandise. I mean, they always had merchandise. That's kind of what they always have done. It's just they're two very different shows. I guess that's kind of, I guess for me, I look at them like they're two. Mandalorian, I didn't know what it was really. I got into it late. I got into it late in the first season. I was watching it. And it was like, it's a very different, the show is not what I thought it would be, which I didn't know what I thought it would be. And Andor, again, was not excited, as you guys know, and I was not even going to do a show. And it became much more than I thought it would be. That makes any sense. I mean, I really didn't know. I love it. I mean, to me, it's like the thinking man Star Wars. I loved it.
Yeah. Well, you can get yourself, that Luthen action figure, so that is available.
Is there really a Luthen action figure?
There is.
Is there a Cassian too?
Yeah, but who cares about that though, right?
You know what else? That ship, man, the Fondor. I would love one of that. That ship is sick.
They don't have. Do they have those? Do they have those things? He's like, so Frank is looking. The merchandise. Oh, just show us. Just show us.
There you go. Let's see. It's I'm looking at good old Hasbro Pulse. Oh, there you go. You can get you can get Mon Mothma. You can get Luthen. You can get Bix.
Oh.
And that is it for this first wave.
Oh yeah, that's my first wave. Yeah, that's interesting. But no, wait, you didn't say Cassian, did you?
No Cassian.
That's weird. It's your show. And you don't get
maybe they'll put out all the Andors together, Marva, Clem, and Cassian.
Let's see. There's one. Good old. Where's my?
Oh, there. Oh, there he is. Okay.
Look at him. Look at him.
Does he have his staff too? His staff? That thing's wild.
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
Do you see people online speculating that that's like a lightsaber or something and he's a secret Jedi? I've been reading about that.
Look at him, just so cool. So he's available. You can get that. And you can get Mon Mothma in her really, nice dress. And then Bix. Interesting that Bix is one of the first ones I did want to toss in there.
So Derpy 501 first. How do you know why there is no Cassian action figure? Please tell me. I'm really curious to hear what you have to say. You tell us why. You said you know why. Tell us why.
Oh, I have no idea why.
No, he said those guys in chat. There's somebody in chat say they know why. I'm like, I know it is kind of weird though. It's the lead of the show.
You can get my apologies. There we go. Yes, we got some Andor in here.
Okay.
There's a 2-pack of Andor and BMO. So
I might have to look into that.
He's going online.
I might have to look into that.
Yep.
Going online. It's just funny. Each of these shows, because we've done 3 together now, and of course we all watched Mandalorian, so 4. I did a review on the Bad Batch, so that's 5. Like, it's just all these shows are different. They really are. They all have different identities. They're really very different, distinctly different shows. The fact that Andor is off of a movie, a solo movie, kind of spin-off movie thing, but it's connected in the Star Wars movie universe. Now we got TV connected to movie. It's very interesting now too, seeing the Death Star at the end. So we kind of see what time period we're on. It's very interesting. Because now we're connecting both theater, TV, the old movie over here, but then the old, the way back when, like it's like we're really kind of, Andor's kind of connecting it all for the first trilogy. I mean, the second, you know what I mean, the 4 or 5, that whole trilogy gets my nerves. The 4, 5, 6 part. I'm like, that was the first one. Like shit. But they're the second. Shit. Jerry says because he doesn't have a mask to hide his face emotions from his choices. LOL. Not funny. But yeah, I mean, I just feel like each of these shows have very distinctive personalities, but this one really does. This one really is kind of a connector for part of the Star Wars story. Even more so than Obi-Wan, right? I thought Obi-Wan would kind of be that, but I feel like Andor did it more than Obi-Wan did, didn't it? Or am I wrong?
I don't know. I mean, for me, it's just the world building on this and just getting you more invested in everything, whether it's the formation of the rebellion, just the deep dive into the Empire. I'm this deep into the mechanics of the Empire, and I loved it. It's just yes, they're bad guys, but I feel like bad guys are so much more interesting if you are more invested in them. And I feel like this series just really got you brought into their world. I loved it.
Right. It's funny too, because like in Rogue One, I feel like it's funny actually, because Rogue One and Andor are the two mediums that have kind of given us this, where we've seen sort of like the political infighting between the Empire, right? Because it's like in the original trilogy, it's really a lot of like, you see all these Imperials and they're just afraid that Vader's going to come along and force choke them, but otherwise they're all just in line. And maybe that's because they're at a different stage of the Empire at that point, right? But here in Rogue One, we see, Krennic and Tarkin going at it over, who's more responsible for the construction of the Death Star and the success of this mission. But then even in Andor now, at an even more like base and like fundamental level, we see Deirdre and that guy Blevins going at it. Like, just like kind of seeing the infighting between them has been very interesting to me. It's made me more interested in like the rebellion and how everything works there. And then also like the world building, Ferrix. I feel like Ferrix might be like the most emotionally invested in a planet that I've been, outside of like, Luke staring at the twin suns on Tatooine. You know what I mean? Like that really evokes an emotional response for me. But like Ferrix, I felt like I was more emotionally, connected to that planet than I was in most other planets that we see in Star Wars. And just seeing them chant in the streets, stone and sky, and getting to see a whole funeral process on their planet. And this show, I feel like, touched me in ways that I never expected, and it was just better than I ever could have expected. And I came in being very excited for it, thinking it was going to be good. So,
yeah, I mean, I feel like the only other, like Book of Boba Fett, I thought did a nice little job at the beginning introducing us into a slice of the Tusken Raiders culture.
Yes,
yeah, that's true. That's true.
And I feel like that was something we all enjoyed, and yet the series decided, oh no, we're just gonna get rid of them early and not worry about that for the long time. And I was
every single one of them.
Yeah, and so we're like this, where you saw Ferrix as something that we could come back to throughout this first season. I mean, I just felt like you just got so much more invested in the whole culture and the people in it than it's just like I didn't feel like oh, they really wasted this opportunity. Unlike I felt with Book of Boba Fett, where you gave me this great thing, and then like, no, that's all you get, and we're not going to worry about it.
Right.
Yeah, Derpy one of us agrees with that. We said in the last show, we love the whole funeral scene. I love the season finale. I loved it. So I mean, I was a huge fan of the season. I thought it was a great season finale. It's funny you say that, John, about the whole feeling invested. We are invested because it's so weird because we go away from it throughout the season. We do touch upon Ferrix and what's going on there. We almost feel for Cassian, who had to be gone for so long, that we are feeling for him when he comes back to his dead mother, comes back to Bix, comes back to his friend. Like we were invested in it, and even before he left, but with Marvel wanting to fight and everybody trying to get wanting to, it's like getting it together. And yeah, it's very interesting. You're right. That's it. I guess that's a. Even though I do I like Coruscant. I love the architecture. I love the setting.
Oh yeah.
There's some great cinematography or whatever you want to call it for these kind of, I don't know if they're CGI, how they're used, but I enjoyed all the way. I enjoyed the looks of the sets. And I feel like they fit Mon Mothma, they fit Luthen who was there, they fit all this. I love it. I just thought it was just such a, each place had its part. But it's funny you bring up, Frank, the Boba Fett thing. You're right. I love those first couple episodes of Boba Fett. I thought they were wonderfully done. And they literally did, because we had to explain how he came to be. So it totally did explain it. They totally explained it. And so you're right. It's just that Book of Boba Fett will continue to be one of the strangest after shows I've ever done. Because every week we're like, it was one of the strangest, and we had fun while we just that we have it on here, JLJ Media. It's out there too. It was a trip, and it was a big hit for us. Also, another big hit for us. But I'm just like, it was one of the strangest shows I've. Yes, it was just the nod heard around the world, everything. It's just one of the strange. And that ending was just like, I really don't want to do all this. I really want to be here. I mean, like, what? It was like, it was just, and all the Grogu and Mandalorian stuff. It was very interesting. That after show I will never forget doing with you guys. It was like,
and I know there's the one gentleman who's done the cut down of the Obi-Wan series, and he also did it for Book of Boba Fett. I would be curious to watch Book of Boba Fett, his cut, if it's only 2.5 hours, just to see if it's, if our problems with the series are mitigated by a reduced running time.
Interesting.
We talked about that on all these series, how they, except for this one, it was pretty much the same time period. Each episode, only a couple that were a little different, but how some of the other series were very different. From 31 minutes one episode to 50 minutes another. That's 20-minute difference. That's a 20 minutes difference, and we've talked about on those shows how we can tell I get why they want the freedom, I guess, to do whatever they want, but it's like I'm almost back to the old form. Let's go to the old format to say we do 40-something, like there's no commercials, so do 40 minutes or whatever, and we're good.
Yeah.
Or something. I don't know. I mean, I think it's because, again, we saw in other series things being wasted or not being told it or not giving us enough. So it's like, again, Boba Fett, like you mentioned Boba Fett, Homegirl, had one monologue the whole series, then she gets killed. That's it. It's Jennifer Beals. Like, she's somebody.
Yeah.
She is somebody, folks. Like, she's not just some new actress. It's like, that's what you give her. I mean, that's it. And you have an episode that's like, 25, 30 minutes. You could have done something extra with her. I mean, it's like all these things could have done. So I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, I agree.
It is interesting, the stunt casting in Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
Because how much I feel like more often than not, as a viewer, you're expecting, if you see a stunt, a well-known or recognizable actor in a role, you're expecting bigger things of them in whatever your story you're watching being told. But boy, the Book of Boba Fett did not go that way. Whether it's Stephen Root in the first episode, who we never saw again,
Danny Trejo,
Jennifer Beal,
but
Stephen Root. What was he? A water farmer or something? What was he again?
Yeah, I mean, he had such an ominous look at the end after he leaves. He's like, "I'm going to get you," and we never saw it again. Never saw him.
That's right.
But see, at least in this series, Andor, they used Andy Serkis. They used Forrest Whitaker. Like, they actually got some meaty stuff. They weren't on the whole series, but they got some meaty stuff. Like meaty. Well, Stellan Skarsgård, we can get him. He's another actor that everybody knows. He got meaty work. I think about the Forrest Whitaker stuff. I'm just thinking he's an Oscar winner, director, writer, producer, actor, and it was like he had some really good stuff. He had some really good scenes. So I mean, I feel like if they call and say you want to be in a Star Wars anything, you say yes. I mean, I just feel like that's like, I feel like it's one of those few things. Whether Star Trek or Star Wars or Marvel or DC, you're like, yeah, I'll do it. We need you to be a janitor for episode 5. So I'll be a janitor for episode 5. That's why it's Star Wars. I mean, it's like, I feel like you do it.
Yeah. I'm waiting for my call.
I'm waiting for my call too. I haven't got there yet. Frank, get on it.
That's true. I can't get you into a show. Hasbro is doing this series where you can get your head onto one of their action figures.
Oh my god!
So you can give your head on a stormtrooper. So that's the closest I can get you. So you have a little action figure with your head on as a stormtrooper. And you can just have it with you always.
No, I would want to be Darth Vader. Clearly, I mean that's who I want to be. I want my head on a Darth Vader outfit, but it can't.
Well, all right, fine.
That's what I want, Darth. But it's just funny how this series. I mean, compared to the others, like it's just funny. I did like Obi-Wan at first too a little bit. Like they each kind of came out okay, decently. And then some things just kind of petered out. Where this show to me just kept getting better and better, and it was just like you said, it felt like I was reading a Star Wars book. 'Cause I read Star Wars books. It felt very much like that because we were getting minutia, we were getting insight to the small stuff, and there was drama in it.
Yeah. And I feel like there's no better way to end the season than to leave you wanting more. You're excited about it as opposed to be like, all right, that was fine, whatever. So I mean, while I would love another few more episodes, like you said up top, James, of Andor, I'm also happy where it ended. Because I mean, we have now the long wait for season 2, but boy, it left me in a place where I'm just like, I will be so excited when season 2 drops.
Yeah, and they mentioned in the chat room, of course, the post credit, which they hadn't really done that on any other one. So it's like that was like, wow, okay, here we go. Now we're making a connection, and everyone loved it. Like I said, I giggle like a little schoolgirl. Like my childhood was like, this is my childhood right here. Like it's right here in that. It's like that's what they were building these little things for. That's not what I got. Like it's like people start connecting that little post. Yeah. It was like it was like perfect. I mean, it fit in the Star Wars canon. I loved it.
Yeah. I already wrote down all the things that I want to see in season 2. Actually, I have a whole list.
Oh, really? Well, lay it on us.
What's on your list? Let's see it. Let's hear it.
Okay.
If you want to share.
One thing. So I'm looking forward to more action. Not that I didn't think there was enough action in this season, but I feel like it's going to be very sped up because we're covering a much larger period of time in one season. So I'm almost expecting, I don't know exactly what the time jump might be between season 1 or 2 or what, but if we're getting 12 episodes, it's like every 4 episodes going to be a year or something, maybe, and we'll get a lot of action within those episodes. I'm interested to see what are the characters that we know that we maybe didn't see on this season. Like I want them to make sense, but like, if we see, even if it's just a hologram of Palpatine, or if there's one scene in one episode where we see, Vader, or I even want to see like Krennic, we didn't see Bail Organa at all, right? This season, like in the flesh. I'd like to see like people like that. I want to see what some of the people that left on the ship from Ferrix at the end of the season finale, where they end up, like Brasso and the kid Willman, like last time we saw him, he was throwing a bomb at a bunch of Imperials. I want to see what he does next. And then I want to see like the next steps of Mon Mothma's evolution into like this, rebellion leader. But also the last thing was just Saw, because I feel like we saw a bunch of Saw in this season, very little actually. But like when we saw Luthen visiting him, we saw a bunch of X-wings out there. We know all these stories about how Saw is he's a rebel, but he's a rebel even to the rebellion. Like it's just, I want to see him in action and his whole crew, because we saw them a little bit in Rogue One and stuff, but like we usually just see them in that base that they're in. I want to see him in like a heavy fire battle with the Empire, like really going at it and pulling off some big, mission or something like that with his crew. So those are some of the things that I want to see in season 2.
That's a nice list. I don't know how I would feel about seeing Darth Vader in this. This is where does it kind of does it burst my bubble of like, this is more of the grounded Star Wars. All of a sudden have, Darth Vader walking by. Does it pop my bubble? I mean, not that I would doubt Tony Gilroy if he decided to have him in there for whatever scene. But also, yeah, it just seems like, I'm so, after 12 episodes, I'm so accustomed to kind of how it's just more the mundane, people on the ground kind of stuff. To have seen something a little bit more larger than life, like a Jedi, like Obi-Wan or Darth Vader come into it, with that, how that would feel tonally on the show.
And like I said, I only really want this if it makes sense and like it helps the story. I don't want it to be just put in there for the sake of, being put in there. So, if it's literally just hearing Vader's voice, you know what I mean? If it's something as small as that, I would love to see some of these other characters. This season, the only characters that we are familiar with that we saw were Cassian, right? And Mon Mothma. Was there anybody else that we really know well from the Star Wars saga that was in this season at all? I mean, by the end of season 2, of Mandalorian, we had Ahsoka, we had Luke Skywalker, we had all these different characters, and like, I'm not saying I want it to be as grandiose as that, but I would like to see a few of these other characters that are tied to the Empire, tied to the Rebellion, even if they're in there for just one scene or just appearing as a hologram or you just hear their voice or, whatever it is. I'd like to see some of that and see how they could, creatively bring that into this story, which has been so great through the first season.
I feel like that may be because one of my regrets, or one of the things I didn't enjoy as much about Rogue One, was we were meeting the formation of this team that went to go get the plans of the Death Star. But at the same time, they wanted to make it seem like these people had this bond as well, which didn't ever seem earned to me. I wanted it to be like, oh yeah, Jyn is meeting these people that have already formed a team, and she's just joining them for this. So I didn't need to see them coming together. So for that reason, in Andor, I would have loved to see the second season. We could have seen him meeting some of the people we would have seen in Rogue One, but knowing that Donnie Yen, we're not going to really see him because it doesn't really happen until Rogue One. It kind of bums me out. It's like, I wish they would have had them already as a team so we could have more possibilities of other stories with these characters.
Right. Because at that point in Rogue One, we first saw them like Chirrut, right? And like Cassian was referring to them towards Jyn as like, we're not here to make friends. Like, they're just causing trouble. They're old temple guards. But like, maybe they could have worked it in a way. Cassian is sort of like this spy for the rebellion. Maybe these old Jedi temple guards are, contacts of Cassian's that he gets information from down on the surface of Jeddah, but you'd really have to be thinking ahead to have done that, I guess. So
I just know we're gonna have a TV series at some point. Have early adventures.
There was no Disney Plus back then. I mean, like, there was nothing like. I mean, it was.
Yeah, that would have been cool though.
It's just my thing. It's like there's already so much going on in that plot. It's like I would have been fine with like, hey, we already know people. We already know these people. It's all great. Rather than like I'm seeing the origin of everything else. Especially if you want me to feel like the tragedy of all these people coming together. Like the film wants me to feel like, oh my god, these people sacrificed everything for this. Can you feel how connected they are? Like they really wouldn't spend much time together. They're not really that much of a team. I mean, like the overall the concept of them sacrificing themselves as a whole, tragic, yes, but like this group of people coming together, I never really felt that connectedness because they made it so much more of a getting the gang together movie.
Right. I mean, it felt like they became a team in Rogue One out of desperation, because the only reason they all got on that ship together was because, as K2SO said, there is no horizon. So literally, they all had to get onto this ship, and now, of course, here we are. We're a team now. We're on the same ship together. We just survived the same disaster. Yes. let's go to our next planet.
Yeah, like I said, there was no Disney Plus back then. I mean, I didn't think about it. They had no thought about this, I'm sure. Yeah. But you're right. It does kind of like this season 2 is very interesting because you're right. We don't know how, because this wasn't out of the box. I mean, I don't know what they call hits. I don't even know. I don't even get what's considered successful. So if this is not considered successful, then are they going to try to do everything in season 2 and say that's it, and just tie it to Rogue One? Or if it was successful on some level, will they just leave it open and still give it just a couple of seasons more, like maybe season 3 and then end it? So I'm just curious, because that'll inform how far ahead they go and what the pacing will be.
Right.
If it was just another year in the life, then there you go. I mean, it's like, do they think they want to have season 3? So I don't know. I mean, that's the big mystery. It's like, well, what are they going to show us? How far ahead are they going to go? we have like 4 or 5 storylines going right now, sitting there, plus anything potentially that hasn't even come up yet. I mean, it's like 4 or 5 that are sitting there. We gotta make those clear up, right? We gotta kind of see how those go, right? I mean,
yeah. I mean, I certainly feel like the one I'm most like John had mentioned. I really want to see what the crumbling of Mon Mothma, her status on Coruscant, because at some point, either she's got to sneak out, she's found out, but somehow she's got to leave that planet, which I'm sure is like with a lot of people that wanted would be very interested in talking to her.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Right.
And her family. What the heck? We never see the family.
What happens to her family? Yeah.
Right. And again, we have Luthen and Cassian together. What does that mean? And how far is Luthen in the series? How far does he go? Like, how far is his importance? Like, what happens? Does he die at the end at some point and inspire Cat? Like, we have nobody like. I'm like, what happens? We really have.
Yeah.
It's some beautiful territory to mine because we don't know. But it's like I thought it might be a little weird because we already know there's a movie out there, but there is a whole section of all these folks we didn't know about that weren't in the movie. Anything could happen to them. I mean, anything could happen to them.
What about the budding romance between Cyril Karn and Deirdre Moss?
Deirdre. What's happened? He's like, no. But no, it's just very interesting. We have them. We have her and the whole ISB and all that. But we have Cyril, who's trying to get back into this whole world. Is he going to do it? Is it going to work? Or is he going to turn? Or or something happening here? Like, who knows? Like, there are endless possibilities because we just don't know how they're going to do this for 12 episodes. I mean, it's
well, especially for a show that is not very sentimental when a character dies.
Nope, sure isn't.
Sure does not make it through this second season. I will be curious to see how that is handled.
Yeah, I know. Because I mean, he's Luthen. I mean, does he get a big ending? I mean, like, he's Luthen.
Maybe he'll get like a send off, like one of the Ravagers in Guardians of the Galaxy in Marvel. They'll just send his body out into space, and the fireworks will start going off.
That's right. They all came to see him.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's good. It's true. It's just people died. They died. That's it. I mean, Marva got a tribute because she was Marva, and it furthered the story. I mean, it set the scene for the story for the ending. But yeah, I'm really curious. I'm very curious how this is going to go because I'm actually very excited. I'm also a little nervous. Again, season 2 can it be as good as season 1? Yes, for John.
Oh, I just remembered too something else. K2SO. We're supposed to see how K2SO and Cassian meet in this series. From what I've read, we're supposed to see that. So that's another thing that I'm excited for.
Well, see, what's so funny is I kept hearing this thing about, I think Obi-Wan Kenobi shows up somehow in the series and all this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, was that just rumor? Like, was that just like people just saying shit? Because obviously he didn't.
I had read that, but I think it's BS. Unless we got Luke Skywalker and Mando. So maybe season 2's big surprise is Obi-Wan showing up, but I don't think so.
Yeah,
I think that was I think that was fake news spread on the internet.
Yeah, a wish list of sorts. Because that didn't happen. Obviously didn't happen. And I'm with Frank a little bit. I love me some Darth. I mean, that's my man. But I'm like, it's almost kind of fun. Those people are off camera, so to speak. Like they're looming. It's almost kind of fun to know that they're there and they're mentioned, but not seen. Because we're busy with all these people down here. I kind of like that. I'm almost with Frank on that. I kind of like that.
Yeah. I hear that.
That's not what you said, Frank, but I mean, I'm assuming it's close to what you were thinking.
Well, I guess in one sense, as much as I enjoy Andor, and I have, I think we all have, but there's a sense where it's like, how's this kind of butting up against the story that we know from the original films? So in a sense where it's like, I would love to see Tony Gilroy or somebody who was also working with them on that series do something set after the Rise of Skywalker, where there's nothing else that we feel like, oh, how's this connecting to the Skywalker saga? It's like, that's who knows what's going on at that point. Just tell me a great story where you don't feel like you have to be connected to anything, and let's see what's up.
Yeah.
That's it.
I would like to. I would like, because we're not going to see Jin or so, but I would like to see maybe some talk about Galen. You know, even if we didn't see him, but he was just referred to as like, you know, being this scientific officer for the Imperial Army. That would be a cool connection to Rogue One. That we get a little bit of information that they're looking at Galen Erso, just a little bit, a little bit of a callback to Rogue One. But I don't know. I am hoping to get some more little connections and characters from other Star Wars media in season 2. We'll see.
Yeah. Very curious. Any last thoughts? I mean, we liked it. I think everybody I think overall it's not perfect, but we liked it. I think we all kind of liked it, right? I mean, I would give it. It's my favorite out of this series.
Yeah.
Mando's a close second. But I really did enjoy this series the most.
Yeah,
I loved it.
In terms of its greater impact on the Star Wars streaming universe, I mean, I can't imagine like Mandalorian. I feel like that's, Dave Filoni's got his way of just doing that show.
Yeah.
But I'd be curious, like with the Acolyte, does it?
Yes.
Does it, any of the way that they've done this kind of bleed into that at all? I don't know. It just seems like this can't be the only Star Wars show that has this kind of rich storytelling in terms of it. I'm hoping that carries over to whatever new series might be popping up.
Well, like Ahsoka too. How good will that be? It's another one. Yep. It's like we're excited for it, and Ahsoka has her own story and all thing. I'm excited. She's tied different things to the canon too. I'm excited. I was seeing all these little things on Twitter. People, they're taking pictures and maybe people get. But I'm really curious because you're right. I mean, I'm looking at Acolyte because certain things I've seen has some really good actors and people we don't know, and it looks like it's very kind of a little more highbrow. So I'm really curious if Acolyte's more like Andor. Like the shows don't have like the built-in, excitement factor. Maybe those are the shows that do the real deep dive and really go into the nitty gritty.
I feel like Andor, it's such like it's especially the way it started off. It felt so dark and just gritty, and just knowing that the Acolyte is so like Sith heavy, you know what I mean? Like I'm so excited to explore that more. I actually just started listening to a new audiobook about Darth Plagueis. So super pumped. But yeah, there's so much good stuff coming out. But just between the Acolyte, Mando season 3, Ahsoka, and even Bad Batch, by the way, season 2 comes out January 4th. That's less than a month away. So
that's January 4th. I didn't realize it was January 4th. Good.
So yeah, I feel like this is a very interesting time, and I think Andor could have a big impact on the way that a lot of Star Wars series are done going forward, and even the movies. But we'll see.
I mean, not that we ever are doing this. We're not in it for the awards, everybody. But I'll be curious next year for the Emmys and stuff, what kind of consideration the show gets.
Because Mandalorian, both seasons got lots of Emmy nominations. They got lots of Emmy nominations. Lots. They got 24 for season 2. They had one of the most of all dramas. I mean, they were known, and yeah, much of it was for sound and all that kind of stuff. But you're right with Andor, same thing. It could get some acting ones. There's some good acting in this. They could get some acting. Plus the design, the set design of that. I'm sure I'm curious too.
Visual effects and all that, and
sound, all that stuff. But, too.
Yeah. It's like, how could you not seriously consider Stellan Skarsgård or for just his monologue in that one episode? Like that's like you just watch it, like that's something you submit for that, or Andy Serkis for a guest star.
Or Hunger Place Mon Mothma. She really was,
Fiona.
She conveyed everything every week. She conveyed whatever she needed to convey every week, and she was really good. So I was like, yeah, those 3 for sure. Sorry, Diego Luna, you were okay, Cassian. But the others really pulled it and gave it to us. So yeah, I don't know. But the Mandalorian has the first 2 seasons gotten a lot. What we're gonna see for any of these shows, will they get any nominations next year? Will they get anything? I guess.
I mean, I will pose to both of you the question that what I talked about earlier at the beginning, where there's people where some critics have described this as a donut show. Do either of you feel that same way, that Andor is just kind of the least interesting thing in terms of the main characters we followed this season?
Yeah.
Or did you still feel like there was satisfying enough development for you?
There's development, but I think he's the least interesting. I mean, there was development. He showed what he started out as kind of, I'm just doing it. I'm just doing this for the money, get my thing go. Then he got caught in some mess. They got locked away. He had to form a rebellion. I mean, we've seen his his trajectory. Yeah. But it's so weird. Out of all the characters, he's the least one that I even care about. It's kind of weird. I don't dislike him, but it's just like the other ones I'm much more interested in.
Right. Now I say it is a weird thing. It really is, because I do like Cassian, but it is true. Like, if I had to say, like, of all these main characters, which one is the least interesting? I mean, he didn't get a big monologue, right? Like these other characters did. I think we talked about this not that long ago. Like, it's just interesting to me how it feels like every time we see a friend of Cassian's, somebody that he's close to, it's always like, oh, this person is willing to, like, die for him, do whatever he wants, but we never see, like, how does he sweet talk these people? How does he get them so close to him? We just kind of are introduced to them, and it's like, oh yeah, everybody loves Cassian. They lay down on a grenade for him. They do this for that. But, like, I want to see him form one of these relationships from the beginning and gain that trust. And I guess the closest thing we got to that in the series was with Kino Loy, but that even just felt so fast and rushed, because a lot of the things that Kino said in his monologue came from a little bit of what Cassian said, that I'd rather die, fighting them than die, on my knees, letting them just have their way with me. Like, he kind of what he said is what Kino used in his monologue, but even the way Kino delivered it and said it was just way more effective and way more, it's just weird. The whole thing is a little weird to me. There is something a little off. Maybe season 2 will fix that. But I do agree that if I had to choose one character that I'm like, it's the title character. But I still like Cassian.
Yeah, which I don't know. I mean, I guess is that pitch that Tony Gilroy does, because his already association with Rogue One, but could he have and just had somebody else going through that story that Cassian did this season?
I'm sorry you froze, so we didn't know what you said.
Yes, could you repeat the first?
Sure, no. Could it have? I would have been curious if Tony Gilroy had at all considered doing the show, but without Cassian. Wow. And Cassian was just like, well, it's my way to show that this is connected to. He's my gateway to the bigger Star Wars universe.
That could be it, right? That'd be interesting. I can see that.
Yeah,
I can see it's
interesting.
Like, we need a connector. We need a connector to get people to watch. I mean, everything's about ratings. I mean, everything's about buzz. We'll do that. But remember, I was not excited. You could watch any episode of any show I talked about. I was just like, I'll do a review of the season at the end. So, I mean, I was not, it did not excite me. I saw the trailers. I was not excited.
Were you a big fan of Rogue One, James?
I love that. I loved it. It's my favorite of all the side movies.
Interesting, but Cassian wasn't an interesting enough character even within that movie to be like, yeah, I want to see a series about him.
Nope. And even that series is what people I wouldn't mind seeing more of in that series. It's just for me, it was a very self-contained movie. It had its thing. Mr. Darth came out, did his thing at the end. It's just literally, it fit where the Star Wars canon was. It fit. It was to me. I was like, now this is a great Star Wars film compared to that other trash they put out before that. I was like, this is good. So I was like satisfied at the time with the movie. I saw it twice. I saw it 2 or 3 times. And I was like, I'm satisfied. A series about it, I had no desire. I mean, when they talk about it, I said, okay, prequel, okay. But I kept saying, we already know how it ends. So, like, what's I was like, whatever.
Yeah.
Again, I was proven wrong, and I fucking love it.
Do you guys remember how long after Rogue One had come out that they announced that they were doing this series of Andor. Do you remember the time frame? Because I don't remember how long it actually was.
Years. I mean, it was years.
Yeah, it was years, right? So do you think they saw the success of Rogue One? Because, I loved Rogue One. And I thought there were a lot of good characters, and I liked Cassian in that too. But it was like, okay, he's another character in this story that features so many great characters.
Yeah.
And do you think they saw the success of that movie and said, we want to explore this time period more with these sorts of characters more, but who can we take from this movie and build a series around? Cassian was just
here's what I think.
One that
here's what I think. I think so. Rogue One was good. They were hoping Solo was going to be a big hit. It wasn't a big hit. It wasn't that good critically or whatever. It wasn't that good. I think their original idea, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, was to do trilogy movies and in between one-offs. And I had heard about other kind of one-offs they were talking about. So I figured that was it. It was all pre-Disney Plus and all that. So Disney Plus came along. I think the Star Wars division started to look back, kind of, I think, John, and go back and go,
right.
Well, what do we have? What can we? Well, Boba Fett was a one idea. Obi-Wan Kenobi, great. Everybody loves that character, great idea. I mean, the three of us on other shows have come up with 10 other ideas they could have went with. But I think with Andor, I think there's Rogue One, it fits in the canon, and they probably decided to do a prequel. It's almost like what Frank said, I think it was like they probably had a whole setup, and they went, we need a connector. We need somebody who's going to connect people to want to tune in to this series. Because it wasn't like the other series that had built-in people excited.
Yeah.
Built-in folks. Yeah. I think that's what I think. Back in the day, though, I thought they were all movies. It was movies, movies and books, whatever. It was movies.
Right.
I think if these have been a little more successful, then they probably would have continued doing the whole because it's a great idea. It's like we have this big movie in a trilogy, and then we have a spin-off thing. I would have loved it if they did it correctly. The third trilogy is my least favorite trilogy of all of them. It's just not good.
Yeah.
It's whatever. In my opinion, folks, it's not that great. But some of the spin-off movies, Solo had promise, and I feel like it just didn't fulfill it fully. So because I'm sure they want to do a Solo series too, and so it makes sense. It's a character everybody likes, but who knows? I think they got postponed or something. But who knows, right? So
it's funny to me that and I think we all kind of agree. It's funny to me that one of the characters that we find the least interesting, not that we don't like him, but the character that we find the least interesting is the only one that they could really focus this series on, because it's the only one that you can really connect everybody to. You know what I mean? This couldn't have been, Mothma. This couldn't have been that, because how are you going to then bring in Ferrix, and how are you going to bring in this and that? It had to be Cassian Andor. It had to be Cass. But we all agree, I think, that he's one of the less interesting characters in Rogue One, but also in the show that he's that's named for him, he's still one of the less interesting characters. It's very interesting.
I know, I agree.
But it does get me excited to want to see a Mothma series, just to see that
Mothma.
name.
Mothma. Mothma. Yes. Yes. It's the Star Wars. The thing with the Star Wars universe, there's so many things and spin-offs and all kinds of stuff they could do. That's kind of that's the blessing and the curse. Is what do you choose? Can you write a good story for a series? A movie's one thing, but can you write 5-6 episodes, let alone 12? Andor accomplished it, thank you very much. But we saw the other series, they didn't accomplish it as well sometimes, in our opinion. Yeah. So that's the problem. I could think of 10 different spinoffs and just but that's a whole other, thing. So I think it's the Star Wars world is rich. And I feel like Andor really showed us parts we've never seen before. What a trip. It's parts we've never seen before.
Yeah.
Never thought about before.
Yeah, I would be really curious just to see how Lucasfilm views all this.
Yeah.
In terms of, because a lot of it is kind of revolved around the same time period.
Yeah.
That Rogue One, Obi-Wan Kenobi, but we've also got the Mandalorian time period as well too.
Yes.
So are there areas, pockets of time that are Lucasfilm more receptive to like pitch us a show if it falls in between these films and these films? Are there's have they heard pitches for other areas for like post Rise of Skywalker or or post Jedi pre Force Awakens? But I'm curious how they are things just kind of off limits right now until they figure out how they want to approach that stuff.
Yeah, I'm very curious about the next trilogy. I'm very curious what that story is going to be. I mean, just right. They can go 10,000 directions, so they'll be curious to see what direction they go. Is it something we've never even heard before? I mean, I'm really curious. Yeah, very curious. These series are easy. You can do these. These are a little more easier. You just pick things and whatever. That's the trilogy. That's the big thing. That's the big thing. So what is this next thing going to be? I mean, it's because it's not like Marvel. It's very different. Marvel spins off things, and this over here. This is something totally different. The last trilogy was universally kind of panned. If you think about it, not everybody liked it.
It was a little rough.
It had promise. It really had promise. It really did. And again, I will say this. I will say it till the end of time when I'm on my deathbed. They go, James, do you have any last words? I'm going to say, and we never got a scene with Leia, Luke, and Han Solo together. I'm going to say it for the rest of my life. I'm going to say it for the rest of my life.
I'm going to put that on your tombstone, just that sentence.
And we never saw Luke, Leia, and Han Solo together. Here lies James Lott Jr. I'm serious. I'm like, we never got Ace, really never, the three of them never. And Carrie Fisher died, so it was too late. But it was like and you kill off Han. I mean, don't get me started. That's a whole other show. I'm not gonna do it on this show. I will always say that, you guys. I will always say we have this chilling. The three were alive. They were back, and we never got even one scene.
Nope.
Of the three of them together. F me.
It's a crime. It's a crime.
And that's how we're ending the show, because I have another show to do after this. So we're gonna end the show there. Thank you so much. This is Andor. We're done. This is what we're literally. I can't stretch this out any further. It's literally. We've talked it to death. There's nothing else left to talk about. We love this show. We will be back, hopefully, if we're all alive and still talking to each other. We'll be back for Andor whenever it returns in the future. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to see a teaser trailer or a trailer. I can't wait. Thank everybody in the chat room for being here with us. I want to say thank you to everybody who's listening, who downloads this, the thousands of you who download this a week. I'm just in shock. I'm glad you enjoy us. We enjoy each other. That sounds dirty. But we enjoy the whole, what did I say?
Yeah.
Enjoy
that whole.
I was like, I don't know where I'm going. It must be getting late for me. I'm going to go. But my sister in the chat room, so that's sorry, sis. I just, how I am. My mouth. But we got John Dunphy, we have Frank Moran, I'm James Lott Jr. We will be here for Mandalorian season 3. We got to talk about Bad Batch, I guess. We got to talk about that. Well, that's between us. We love you guys. Bye. Good night.